No, are you enjoying it so far?
I am loving it. I've been here 2 days now, and what I love is how affectionate everyone is. Like hugs, you're huggers, and land of huggers. And I went to a tango show.
Nice.
Super fun. Yeah, I just think it's beautiful culture, beautiful people, and I feel very welcomed.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. We just love to have you here. So I'm happy that you're having a good time. And first and foremost, we're going to talk a lot about your work as an actress, about Harry Potter, of course. But I just want to congratulate you for all the great work that you do for animal rights. So thank you so much. And I wanted to ask you, when did this concern, when were you, when you just decided you wanted to, raise the voice of this?
Yeah. When I was very young, my family, we lived in the countryside in Ireland, and always surrounded by animals. I used to watch a lot of films, like, the animated films about animals, and I always felt for them. So I think when I was around 9, 10, I started to make the connection and felt really sad about, it didn't make sense to me that I would love them and support them, but also, endorse their killing. So yeah, when I was young I went vegetarian, and then when I got older, maybe about 10 years later, I looked deeper into it and went vegan. And yeah, it's definitely, it's unusual, especially like when it comes to cultures like this, and meat eating, same as for Ireland, it's a big part of the culture. So I realised people, it's kind of confronting. I think it is important, one of the biggest issues of our day, to confront our relationship with animals. And I suppose, like Luna, like my character, always felt very close to animals, like a spiritual connection, It goes beyond words. So yeah, I feel very happy doing that kind of work and making that choice.
Yeah, that's great.
Is it hard for you? You said you're a vegan. Is it hard being a vegan?
It is hard, especially in Argentina, where the asados that we eat, it's everywhere. But yeah, and I was going to talk to you about that. That's something that, I can relate to Luna. It's very, very similar in a way, right? So you also very young became an actress, and did you decide that you wanted to be an actress first, and then Luna came as part of your search to become an actress, or were you first a fan of Harry Potter, and that brought you to audition for Luna, and then became an actress?
Yeah, it was sort of both. I found acting when I was very young, probably younger than when I discovered Harry Potter, because I was a very shy child. I was very anxious socially. I didn't know how to connect with people, and I loved that when I found acting. It was like you didn't have to think about that. You got to study a character, you got to study human behavior, and then I found like I could be a more confident version of myself in acting. The words were written, I understood the character, I felt a real freedom when I put on someone else's, name and identity. So I always wanted to, and then I think the two went hand in hand. I saw the Harry Potter films being made, and I thought, that's the world I dream of entering. And at the same time, I also really wanted to be in the performing arts. So yeah, a bit of a crossover. At that age as well, you're still figuring everything out. You don't really know what your destiny is.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you were also a fan of the books, right? You were a big fan when you were a kid.
Yes.
What attracted you to the saga?
Oh, it was the characters. It was that, I think it was Harry really. It was that he was, in his head, we felt like he was such an ordinary person, an ordinary child, adolescent, young adult. He had the sense of never being enough for his destiny, for he was the chosen one, and he was supposed to be the one to vanquish evil, to save the wizarding world, and he never feels great, he never feels powerful, he actually always feels a bit weird, a bit of a misfit, and he has all this trauma from his parents dying. And I think I just really identified with him, that, I had a desire like him to do good things in the world, but I felt so ordinary, and I love that he sort of managed both of those feelings.
audition for the part of Luna. So my first reaction was, okay, so there must have been massive, amounts of people and many callbacks. But then I saw you, I think in the interview saying that the casting process was actually quite fast. That very overnight you were there sitting with Daniel doing, a screen test. How was the audition process? And as a little girl, how that impacted you? Because it must have been something.
Yes, it was very fast. I found out it was because they had already been auditioning for that character for months, and they had already narrowed it down to 5 actresses. So I almost nearly didn't get it, But then I think the producers told me that last minute they said they just weren't sure. I think that I think they weren't sure between the last 5, and so they said, well, let's have an open audition and see who comes in as a last sort of attempt. And I came in, but they were only a few weeks away from filming, so I had my first audition when I met them, and then a week later I had the screen test, and 3 days later I got it. And that is absurdly fast. It's crazy fast for any project, but especially a big budget thing like that. But I don't think I could have waited longer than 3 days, and I was dying, waiting to find out. But yeah, it was just all a whirlwind.
And how is it for an 11-year-old? You were about 11.
No, I was 14.
Oh, 14, okay. But how is it for a 14-year-old girl to go through all that process so fast?
It was disorienting, I had to take it just one step at a time, one day at a time, because it was too overwhelming, there was too much to consider. But at the same time, it was sort of a dream that I had been chasing for a long time, I had been writing letters to the casting directors, I even made a little audition tape. So it was like once it happened, I was fully ready to dive in. It wasn't like, there was no regret, there was no sense of what have I done, do I even want to be an actor? I was very determined, so yeah, once it happened, I was like, let's go.
And I can tell also from watching interviews, you were super determined with being Luna, and that no one had an argument with you. They just saw you and said, this girl is just perfect for the role. Did you do some research? Did you resonate with the character when you were a fan back then reading the books?
Yeah, she was very special to me. She just really helped me because, and I think that's why so many people are here today, that this feeling, especially when you're a teenager, of feeling so uncomfortable in your skin, feeling like the weirdest person in the room, and to see a character who was so at ease with her weirdness. She didn't ever try and stifle how strange she was. She just embraced it. That was so liberating. And I always felt like the weird child in the room. And so to meet her character in the books, I loved that feeling it gave me. So I think it was more like I read the book so many times. I knew her character, I knew her backstory. So the thing I did for that role was just tap into how I felt whenever I read the book. That feeling of lightness, of joy that she has about the world, that fascination with nature. It came very easily. She's an easy character to play as well for me because she says what she thinks. She's very honest. She's just, you kind of exhale when you're with Luna, when you're with the character who's that kind and joyful and light.
That's amazing. And talking about the auditioning process, we have a small tape prepared for you. Bueno, el primer tape, señor director.
You don't think about the odds, you don't think about how unlikely it is to get that audition. You just think, I'm going to get it. So I admire that idealism and naivety. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I was actually going to say, where do you pull the confidence to just stand in front of a casting and actually you got the part, you go on set, and I can imagine that it must be quite threatening to just be in I imagine a huge set, lots of people. Were you aware of, everything that implied getting the part when you
that everything that what?
Yeah, were you aware of, that was going to give you a lot of exposition and, did that make you feel pressure to do
Yeah.
well?
I was very aware of the fandom because I was a part of it already. You know, there had already been 4 films. I was a huge fan of those actors in those films. So I knew what I was stepping into. But at the same time, the scale of it, I don't think I figured 15 years later I'd be sitting here and still talking about it, you know? I don't, and I think as well, when we were doing the films, like there was no social media, there was no direct connection with the fans, until we had like premieres and interviews. And so every time there would be a premiere, it was kind of a shock to go, oh wow, oh geez, this thing goes all over the world, oh it's quite a big deal. But while making the films, it was very sheltered and very, you know, a small, not small for really, but it was quite an intimate setting, yeah.
And what do you remember for the first days on set when you started filming the first movie?
What do I remember? It was in the Room of Requirements. So it was the scenes in the Dumbledore's army. Those were my first days. So it was kind of good because it wasn't a high pressure scene for me. It wasn't like I had a whole scene to learn. I kind of just got to be in the world and get to know the other cast. And I was very nervous though. I was very much like, I wanted to do everything perfect. And I couldn't understand how the other actors were like having a laugh and just joking and talking about school and their personal lives, and I was like, we're making a Harry Potter film, it's serious, you know? But that's what I had to learn. I had to learn to relax and let go, because if you're too tense, if you're trying to do things perfectly, that doesn't translate well on film. You've got to be relaxed. Yeah.
That's great. And Luna is quite a character, you know, she marches to the beat of her own drum, she's super honest, but at the same time it's very sweet. You know, she knows the exact right thing to say. I believe she's a mentor to Harry, because whenever he's, you know, in trouble or just lost, you know, with just one tiny sentence, Luna just knows exactly what to say to set his spot, to put him back, you know, on track. How did you prepare the character as an actress? Where did you draw inspiration to build the character?
To be quite honest, I didn't have to do a whole lot of prep work because the books are so well written. The characters are so well written. You know, I've done other projects since where you do have to do a lot more research and digging, and you have to create the backstory. But Luna, she was so textured, and I felt I understood her. So I didn't. There was like conversations about the costume. I was quite involved with that. You know, like her jewellery and everything. I used to make those things, and that was something that was built into the character. The fact that she was very creative, and she used to make. They wanted, you know, her clothes and her accessories to look handmade, like, or you know, made from her heart and her personality. But no, it's not like, you know, nowadays I have to do a lot of research for characters. They're much more complex, but there was just something, in a way she's not complex. She's what you see is what you get. She's this just very quirky, open-minded, colourful young woman. And it wasn't a lot of prep.
Well, I actually read somewhere that J.K. Rowling, she wasn't done with the books when you guys started filming, and she said that she pulled a lot of inspiration from you, from Evanna, to finish writing, you know, Luna's story in the books. Is that right? Did you guys get to talk about that? Do you feel you inspired the Luna that we see in the last books?
Yeah. I mean, I heard that. That was like the biggest compliment ever. Like, so influenced an author I admire so much. But we didn't have conversations. I think she meant that was just, my voice was probably in her head as she wrote. I wonder if it was maybe to do with, maybe I helped make Luna Irish. Because I think in the books it was never commented that she was Irish. And I imagine Jo had written her as like the other ones from, you know, she lived near the Weasleys, she probably had an English accent. But I remember when I got cast thinking, are they going to want me to be English? And they never said anything. And so I just kept my accent. And I'm really happy about that. I'm happy to have like Irish representation there. I think it makes sense for her character because our culture is very rich in mythology and the mysticism, you know, fairy stories, all of that. So that all feels very Luna, it's very spiritual. But no, I never had that conversation. It's the greatest compliment, but I think it was like subconsciously I accidentally invaded her imagination. I don't know. But yeah, hopefully, maybe in her head Luna now has an Irish accent. I hope.
That's great. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at a clip that shows the best scenes from Luna, and we're gonna talk a little bit about backstage and filming and how did you get to actually do these scenes. ¿Podemos ver el segundo tape, señor director? What do you remember, like, if you had to pick one scene that you really enjoyed filming throughout the 4 films, which one would it be?
Definitely the wedding, because Bill and Fleur's wedding, because that was where I got to meet another Lovegood for the first time. Luna got a dad in that film, Xenophilius Lovegood, who's played by the lovely Risa fans. And I remember just, you know, like Luna is the odd one out, and I used to always feel that playing her, that she wears the brightest clothes and people are a little bit uncomfortable around her. And I got used to that feeling, but you know, everyone wants to feel like they belong, like they have another half. And I remember when he came, I remember seeing him for the first time. It was like across a parking lot, a car park, and he was in his beautiful yellow robes and he had white fluffy hair. And I felt my heart kind of go, like, there's another one of me, you know? It was only 3 days with him of filming, but it was such a lovely experience to be like, oh, the 2 weirdos in the room, and we got to make up the little dance, and you know, we just got to enjoy the wedding, to hang out, and I genuinely had so much fun, and I felt like I have family here. Yeah.
Yeah, and that scene feels like a breeze of fresh air in a very dense movie. You know, that it's gonna get darker and darker.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing scene. And if you had to choose one that gave you trouble, that you say, you know, this scene, it was so hard to make.
The scenes, it was in the 5th film, I think. The scenes in the ministry where they're like kidnapped and we're all like held by Death Eaters. And I remember David Yates kept coming up to me saying, you're a bit too calm, you know, we need some fear, we need some need a bit more from you. And I just couldn't understand, like, because Luna, you never really see her in a heightened emotional state. She's always like that. So I couldn't figure out how to play it, how to be her and also, you know, get worked up. And I said that to him, I was like, I just don't think she worries about anything. I think she's very much in the present. And he came back to me and he said, he thought about it for a while and then he said, oh, well, you know, maybe she doesn't worry about herself, maybe she's that evolved, like she just doesn't worry about death, but she would worry about her friends. She would want to help them, and that's very true. She's actually very attached to her friends. So yeah, I think I had to, but I found that hard. I don't know if we fully got there, but it was a bit of a journey.
And as an actress, how is it for you to work with all the special effects and everything? Because you're pretty much imagining something that it's not there. You need to, you know, just do all the work in your head and all the magic. You know, was it fun? Was it challenging?
I think at the time it was all I knew. Like I hadn't done acting the traditional route. I just thought, I guess this is all films, you know, that you're speaking to little tennis balls and things like that. But it was definitely tricky, but like the eyeline thing, but I knew the books well enough that when they said what type of spell it was, or like Dobby's death scene, I knew what the emotion was behind it. So I think my imagination did a lot of work there. I'd probably find it quite hard nowadays, because I've worked on films like with less special effects and things like that, so to kind of go back to that, I watch things like the behind the scenes on like Avatar, The Little Mermaid, and it's like, whoa, those actors have to do all of the work. Well, I mean the CGI as well, but like in terms of building what the scene is, it's incredible.
It's tough. And how was life backstage? You know, you all seem like you were a good, you know, a team that, you know, you had the chemistry on screen. So were you guys friends off screen?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I joined, so it was the 5th one, so everyone was already bonded, they were all friends, they had gone through a lot together, like they had made the films together, they had sort of become famous together and they dealt with that. I think some of them had dated each other and then had broken up. So when I came, it was like, there's a lot of history there. And it definitely took me a while to feel like comfortable around them and like they're my friends, but they were all very friendly and they were all very welcoming. I will say, like, for a lot of us, our friendships have really even developed after the films, like especially with Bonnie, with Matt, Katie, because we end up doing events like this or promo events for the theme park, and you know, things that are strange and that my other friends don't relate to. They don't have jobs like we do. So yeah, I feel like they're my little family in that regard. Yeah.
That's great. And as a child, were you aware? Because I can imagine that, you know, Daniel was a big star when you joined the franchise, and so was the entire cast. Were you aware of how big of a stars you were acting with? Because you were on scenes with Maggie Smith, you know, with such great actors. Were you aware? Was that a burden for you, or how did you manage that?
So I had no idea about the older actors. I was just excited about Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson, Rupert Grint. To me, like, they were the superstars. So, but I'd hear, I'd be in the makeup chair and they'd be talking about, oh, you know, today it's Jason Isaacs or Helena Bonham Carter or Maggie Smith, and they would all be talking about them as if they're legends, and I'd be like, I haven't watched any of their films. So it was only like as I grew up and started to watch more grown-up films and watch their previous work, it was like, oh, I should have asked those people more questions. I should have been paying more attention to them. But in a way, it was good not to be starstruck by them, to just learn by osmosis, you know, because I don't think they'd have liked to feel like they were these little stage kids who were taking notes the whole time. I think they just wanted to have a natural relationship, to have that grow naturally.
That's great. And we were talking about, you know, how you became Luna, and you mentioned the wardrobe and you being involved in some pieces of jewelry that you wore. We actually have some clip prepared that we're going to watch, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. ¿Podemos ver el tercer tape, señor director?
Do you have like a favorite costume to design?
Well, I really think that your character is a very interesting character because you are sort of, I don't think you are mad, but you are full of fantasy, and that's always nice to do. And this year we had your Christmas dress was going to look like a Christmas tree, and it was wonderful to design, and also because you enjoyed that dress very much. It was quite a challenge to make a dress which was that mad and at the same time that pretty, because you do look very pretty in it. And when we made that dress, we were thinking about all the jewelry that you would wear with it, and then you decided to tell me about it, because it's such a lovely story.
Everyone thinks it's a reindeer though, so you can call it whatever, but it's actually her hair for her pajamas.
Was it difficult to make? Because you made also last year for us your radishes. So you make your little radishes, and they were so much more beautiful than ours, so we kept yours, and you make your ring as well.
Yeah.
But how long it takes you to make that?
Probably about 45 minutes. Like, the thing is, you don't have to get it perfect because it's Luna, you know, she's random, she's arty, and she doesn't want it to be.
So you want to tell me that if it was not for Luna, you would have made it better than that?
That's great. I believe that Luna's looks are some of the most iconic from the entire franchise, like the big lion head, you know, the radish earrings. Did you get to keep anything?
I didn't keep anything, no. I kept... It's funny, that's such a funny question people ask me, because as if, you know, the idea of like getting a souvenir is to show you were there. I'm like, I was definitely in the movies, you know, I can definitely prove I was there. What did I keep? Oh, I got a feather, like a phoenix feather. There was the creature effects department, and they always were making amazing creatures, and I used to love looking at the phoenix, so I asked them for some feathers.
That's
I have
great.
those. But, yeah.
And were you always this crafty?
Yes, always. I just love to do things with my hands. I still do. Yeah, it's like I don't know, something about crafts, about the hands. It like roots me in the moment. I've always found the world just a bit much. You know, rooms like this, there's so much to look at, so much going on. So it's kind of calming to have something in my hands that I'm working on. Yeah, I love it.
That's cool. Well, that's something that I believe Luna would, you know, that you and Luna would share.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what is the most Luna-like thing that you have or that you think that you do?
That I
to this
do.
day? Yeah.
That I do. I visit a lot of psychics. I love all that. I love astrology. I love, just like I like kind of thinking about the other realms around us, and I suppose I'm into that. Yeah, astrology. I kind of probably plan too much of my life around the moon, like the moon cycles. I think that's a very Luna thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me and my cousin, we do that. We have like ceremonies, so you'll have like a fire when there's a full moon and write down things you want to let go of, and then you burn that. So yeah, I would say I'm very connected to the moon, and I imagine that's quite a Luna thing, quite a witchy thing.
Yeah, that's so cool. I was actually going to ask you if you believed in magic. You know, do you?
100%, yeah. A different kind of magic, like the mind magic, that we can conjure images and then we can make them real, you know? And I suppose what I would call magic is energy. I believe that energy, everything is energy, and you know, the energy that we have attracts certain people or it repels certain people. So I think it's important to kind of like watch your energy, because if you're watching very negative things, if you're thinking very toxic thoughts, you'll definitely attract those experiences and those types of people. So yeah, but yeah, manifestation, energy. I have a lot of witchy friends who do all these rituals, you know, like with incense or crystals, and I don't go that deep into it, but I know that it's real for them, and I know certain people are more highly sensitized to it. Yeah. Do you believe in magic?
I guess I do. Yeah, but the same thing, I believe everything is energy, and that, you know, if you set your mind on something and you start acting towards that, you know, you can make that happen. I definitely believe in that.
And just, I mean, things that we take for granted, like my sister just had a baby, and it's so wild to me that like, so she made a life, you know, that person is going to go forth and do things, and it came from nowhere, really. Like, that's magic, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Or maybe it's just life, creation, biology, I don't know what word you put on it, but I do look at her child and go, wait, that wasn't here 9 months ago. Where did it come from?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is some sort of magic, you know.
Yeah.
It's something that's amazing.
Yeah.
And after Harry Potter, how did life change for you?
It was definitely like a big push out into the adult world, because I think for me, school and Harry Potter both ended around the same time, and they both gave a real structure to my life. You know, it was like 9 months of filming, and then I'd go back to school for a bit, like 6 months, and they both ended, and it was suddenly, you know, as a child, you have all these people making decisions for you, telling you what to do, where to go, literally your whole routine. And I think I had a similar experience to like when people go to university or when they leave university, of going, oh, I have to make the decisions. Nobody's going to fill up my diary. They're not going to tell me what to do. And I found that very scary at first, going, what do I even do? I don't know what career I want to do. I don't know, am I on the right path? So it felt like a lot of decisions at once. And yeah, I kind of, in retrospect, I wish I'd slowed down a little bit. I think at the time I was just like, oh, I've just done these big movies, I've got to try and do more. And I should have like taken some time off to just, you know, maybe go to school or just develop myself, develop my skills. But yeah, I definitely felt the pressure of, you've done maybe the biggest, you know, some of the biggest movies of all time. What next? It was like, where do you go from there? I had no idea, and I think I've been, figuring it out all that time.
Yeah, and there's something that is said about child actors or people that jump onto fame real fast, that is that they tend to burn stages of their life because they're forced to grow up really fast. Do you feel that that happened to you when you joined the Harry Potter franchise? Did you get time off set to enjoy of the small things?
It wasn't so similar for me. I was 14, you know, I wasn't exactly a child. I was, yes, technically a child, but I was moving into, you know, adolescence and all that. So I'm glad I wasn't a child star. I think, you know, and I was so ready for, I wanted to work, I wanted to contribute, I wanted to be in the arts. I think I probably missed out on the, like, you know, teenage social experiences, like the romance stuff, having relationships, all that. Like, I think I kind of look back and go, oh, there's sort of a gap in my development there that I have had to make up for. But I would not, you know, trade what I went through for anything really. And I think any choice you make, you're going to sacrifice some things. But I really like that it brought me around adults. You know, you had to learn how to speak, how to articulate yourself, how to like see yourself as a professional. Because when you're a kid, it's always like you let the adults lead the conversation, and you're quiet. But I had to learn how to kind of get on their level and see myself in a professional light.
Yeah, and when you look back and you realize that you were in one of the biggest movies franchise today, and that, you know, your character and you will live, you know, forever in the hearts of the fans of Harry Potter, how does that make you feel?
Extremely grateful. You know, because I still do reread the books. I reread them last year, and every time I do, I love this world. I love the writing. It's not something, even though, you know, I've grown up and gone on to other things, and I don't want to spend all my life talking about Harry Potter. You know, I'm happy doing my other work, but I have only pride for being part of that. You know, when I read the stories, I'm like, this is amazing writing. These are beautiful characters and beautiful messages. So I'm really proud to be part of that, and I'm proud as well to play a character who sort of represents a lot of young, awkward people. I get so many letters from young people who've been bullied, who are struggling with their self-esteem, who, you know, just they're social misfits, and they feel very seen and validated by Luna. And you know, that's not me. It's more her influence than mine. But I'm very happy and proud to sort of carry that torch. And I know how significant it is when a character or even just a person makes you feel seen and accepted and loved. And like, that's such a healing feeling. And I'm very happy to be able to pass that on. Yeah.
And talking about characters that are different, that are special, I want to talk at least a little bit about Emily, My Name is Emily, an amazing movie that you made, very different from Luna, but also someone that marches to the beat of her own drum. Yeah. You know, after Harry Potter, you worked on many projects. I'm a fan of that movie. I would recommend people to go watch it if they haven't. What attracted you to that movie?
I loved that character and the script. I just thought it was very funny and touching, and I liked how angry that character was. You know, she'd been through something, like her mother had passed away and her father had kind of, he'd been taken away, and he was struggling with his his own mental health. And she just was like this teenager who was furious at the world, and she wanted to set it to rights, you know? And she was very jaded with school, jaded with teenagers, and I think I like when people who are emotional fully embrace their emotions, who don't try and hide them or people please, who just kind of say everything they feel. I think that's why I like how everyone hugs here. Like there's no politeness, there's no there's no boundaries. There's just like, I want to give you my heart. It's really sweet. But yeah, I like that she was really angry and honest as well. And you could tell she was someone who was very, very sensitive, that she didn't let that stop her from being careful around.
And it's a character that, you know, it has so much depth, you know, and you get to know her story throughout the movie. I think it's an amazing movie, and I just wanted to congratulate you for that. And also because you're an author of a book, and I want to talk at least a little bit about your book, The Opposite of Butterfly Hunting. What made you decide that you wanted to write a book, a very personal book where you tell your story? When did you decide that you wanted to do that?
Well, I love books, I love writing. It's sort of my favorite medium of storytelling, because I think in books you can go very deep. You can just describe things that, you know, the inner monologue, and to me, like my inner mind is the craziest and most loud place. So it's like, it's almost hard to even portray that on the screen, to put that. I actually find it a lot easier to explain that in words. And with my story, you know, my journey, my mental health journey, I found that once I started speaking about it publicly with journalists, they always wanted to ask me about it, and I just kept seeing people write my story in their words, and I had this real frustration of like, that's my story, like this protectiveness and this sense of, you know, you weren't there, you don't know how to tell it, and I would rather the story be told in its full integrity or not told at all. And not told at all was not an option, because I had already started talking about it. So I just felt this sense of, I've got to do it, I've got to write it down and put it out there, and then I can move on, I think. And it just gave, I really believe in like writing as a healing modality. Like you write things and you kind of sometimes don't go, oh, I didn't realize I felt that, or I didn't realize I was holding on to that emotion, that pain, or whatever it is, and stuff comes up, and then to me that's like, I've let it go.
Okay, that's great. Well, Evanna, unfortunately we don't have much time. We have to say goodbye, but we'll continue tomorrow our talk. And you know, I want to finish this panel asking you, I'm pretty sure we have a lot of people here that are watching that want to become actors and that, you know, are fan of you. If you had to give them one advice, what advice would that be?
Well, I would say there are so many different types of actors, you know. I think you have to find out what stories you are burning to tell. What is the thing that is just kind of, you love it so much and it's sort of coming out of your body and you have to do it. It'll help you get past your inhibitions, you know. Like I've learned the hard way that certain films, certain genres, I don't care enough, or I don't have it in me. So I think find your niche, find the stories you want to tell. And I would also say, like, you know, the industry has changed a lot even in the past 10 years. Like, most creatives, most actors are not just actors. Like, they dabble in writing or directing, or I think anything that can, like, nurture your creativity, just, you know, do that. And we're very, very blessed, like, to have all these platforms, all the social media, all these tools of creation. So I would just also say, like, don't be waiting for somebody to come and choose you. Like, that's an old model. To me, it's actually quite a patriarchal model, the idea of the all-powerful male producer with all the money waiting to pick you. You know, screw that, that's done, that's over. Like, and I think, you know, take your power back and figure out what stories you want to tell and go and do it.
I think that's an amazing advice and an amazing way to finish this panel. Evanna, thank you so much for being here. It's been amazing. Bueno, gente, pongan saliendo para right. Okay, well, let's come here. Go, let's take a selfie and then we'll take a picture.